Hello champs, welcome to our channel. Today we'll dive into one of the most inspiring chapters of India's past, the freedom movement from 1885 to 1947. This is the story of courage, unity and determination. It's about the people who stood up against British rule and fought for India's independence. From the formation of Indian National Congress to the Quiet India movement, we'll uncover the events, struggles, and heroes who changed the course of history forever. So get ready to explore the journey of a nation, a journey filled with protest, sacrifices, and the unlimited triumph of freedom. So let's begin. Long ago, India was a land of kings, farmers, craftsmen, and teachers, all living in small communities with their own tradition. People were proud of their cultures but didn't always see themselves as one big family. Then came the British, who ruled over the land and treated the people unfairly. They made strict rules, took away jobs, and created hardships. But something surprising happened. All these changes brought the people closer. Slowly, they began to see that they shared the same struggles, the same hopes, and the same dream of freedom. This is the story of how the spirit of nationalism was born in India. So here comes a question. What is nationalism? Nationalism is a feeling of deep love and pride of our country. It means being willing to sacrifice things like your time, energy, or even money to help your country grow and succeed. It's about the belief that people from the same country are united by shared traditions, culture, and history. When people are nationalists, they feel connected to each other because they have the same roots. Whether they come from different family reason or not, they think of themselves as a part of one big family, which makes them want to work together for their country's success. This unity also makes them proud of their heritage and culture. In India, nationalism grew because people started realizing that they had a lot in common, like the same history, values, and this helped them to come together to fight for independence from British. They wanted to stand as one nation, sharing a common identity and working together for freedom. Unless the Indian people realize that we are one, our interests are one, the spirit of national unity will not rise in them. This means that Indians need to feel that they are a part of one big group, sharing the same goals and interests. Only then could they come together as a united nation. The idea of such national unity in India was unintentionally given by the British. British didn't plan it, but their action made Indians feel more connected and think about being one nation. Uniform law and administration began in the country after the British Company brought the company under its rule, which means the British created the same rules and the way of governing for the everyone in India, which made Indians feel like more likely they are a part of one country. As a result of policy of economic exploitation of the British government, the peasants were ruined and the artisans became unemployed due to collapsing industry. What did Britishers do? The Britishers took a lot of from India and didn't care about helping its people. Farmers became very poor and workers in small factories lost their jobs because industries were shutting down. Thus, economic dissatisfaction and a sense of injustice united the people against British government, which means people were unhappy and felt treated unfairly. They started coming together to oppose British rule. As a result, English education, a small but powerful class of intellectuals, emerged in India. So, English schools taught some Indians modern idea and made them smart and powerful thinkers who later became leaders in the freedom struggle. Western education instilled a longing for self-governance and independence in them. Through their education, these thinkers and leaders started wanting India to be free and to rule itself. Apart from English, a lot of literature were written in Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Punjabi, Bengali, Urdu, etc. in India. So books were written, poems were written in many Indian languages. These writings encourage peoples to be proud of their country and fight for its freedom. Thoughts of nationalism, mythological pride, and ideological awakening abounded in this literature. So, these writings were full of ideas about loving the nation, feeling proud of India's old stories, and waking up to the need for freedom. The contribution of Vigilant newspaper in development of nationalism cannot be ignored. So here newspaper played a big role in spreading news and ideas about freedom, helping people come together to fight against British. Archaeological research were carried out in India during the British rule. During British rule, what happened? Old buildings and ruins were studied to learn about India's ancient history. Ancient texts, Indian texts were translated into foreign languages, and with this, the glory of India's past was revealed to the world. So, the old Indian books, stories, were translated into English and other languages. This showed that the greatness of India's past to everyone. How can the people with such a glorious past be enslaved? That question began to swirl in the public mind. When Indians show how amazing their history was, they started wondering why they were letting the British rule over them. The telegraph, postal service, and railway were introduced at the time of British. So, what did British do over here? The British built railways, telegraph, postal system to send letters. This made it easier for Indians to connect with each other. So, alternatively, they were helping Indians on the other hand to communicate. So, they built a communication system for the Indian peoples, which is still being used till date. The idea of national unity gained strength when people from one region came in contact with people from another region. So when people traveled and meet others from different part of India, they began to feel like they all belonged to the same country. There were several events promoted national unity, which include the justice done to Indians in the chartered job, Lloyd's Vernacular Press Act culturing freedom of the press, and the Indian Arms Act. The British did unfair things like not giving Indians good job, making law to stop Indian newspaper from writing freely, and making it hard for Indians to have weapons. The Albert Bill, passed during Ripson's time, allowed Indian judges to hear the cases of Europeans. The Albert Bill was that said Indian judges could handle cases involving British people. So this person, Albert Bill, was the person who said that Indian judges at that time, who were the Indian judges, that they can also involve in the cases of British people. The English opposed the bill. As a result, the government withdrew the bill. So the British people didn't like this law. So which law was passed by Albert Bill was not liked by British. So they opposed. All these things prepared Indians for the national unity. So what does all these things do? All of this unfair actions by British helped Indians realize that they need to work together to fight for their freedom. The establishment of Hindi Rashtriya Mahasabha, known as Congress. There was a need of national institution to give a definite direction to the idea of nationalism, which represented the interest of Indians against the British, which means Indians needed a group to speak up for them and help them fight against British rule. This group would guide people who wanted freedom of India. There were some institutions in India before the establishment of Hindi National Rashtriya Mahasabha. So before this big group Congress was created, there were small groups working for India's freedom. All this institute created an environment for the establishment of Hindi Rashtriya Mahasabha. So these smaller groups helped people to think about freedom and made it easier to start a big group called Congress. A retired English officer, A.O. Hume's contribution for the establishment of Hindi Rashtriya Mahasabha is significant. So, a Britisher office named A.O. Hume played an important role in starting the Congress. He notified British government about the indignation and discontent among the Indian people against the British. Hume told the British rulers that Indians were very angry and unhappy with their rule. He believed that if this discontent or outrage was not curbed, a revolt like the first freedom struggle of 1857 AD would take place. So, what was the 1857 revolt? The Hume thought that if Britishers didn't listen to the people, there could be another big revolt like the one in 1857 happened. The first session of Congress was held on December 28, 1885 at the Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai. The Congress held its first meeting where in Mumbai on December 28, 1885 in a school named as Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai. About 72 delegates attended it and the president Yomesh Chandra Banerjee presided over the session. Dadabhai Naroji, Firoj Shah Mehta, Bahadur Din Taibij, K.T. Tilanga, Gopal Krishna Golke, Danish Vicha, etc. were among the prominent leaders. So this famous leader attended this meeting. The first phase of Congress 1885 to 1905. During the period of its first phase 1885 to 1905, Rashtriya Mahasabha made demands to the government for political rights, economic, social development, educational progress, etc. So in the first 20 years, Congress asked the British government to give Indians more right, better education and help with jobs and farmings. They were ignored by British government. So British government did not listen to the request of Congress. Yet these demands laid a strong foundation for future struggle. Even though British didn't act, these requests helped start bigger fight for the freedom later. Rashtriya Mahasabha demanded expansion of legislature, reduction in military expenditure, reduction in taxes, relief to farmer in debt, civil service examination to be held simultaneously in India, freedom of expression, etc. So what Congress wanted? So what all Congress wanted are more Indian lawmaker in the government, less money spent on the British army, lower tax for people, help farmer for who owed money, exams of government job to be held in India, freedom to speak and write openly. Looking at the objectives and functions of Mahasabha in the first phase, it can be said that it was opposing unfair policy of British government through constituencies and democratic method. Congress used peaceful ways. So what did Congress do over here? So they used the ways like meeting, writing requests to protest against the unfair rule of British. Though decisions, discussions and resolution, it sent its demand in the form of petition to the Viceroy. So Congress government wrote letter to the British leader in India, Viceroy, explaining their demands. So we have earlier known that what were their demands. Due to this kind of soft or modest attitude, leaders of Mahasabha were known as moderates because they use the gentle ways. The leaders were called as moderates. Rise of the radicals. During this period, leaders in Congress like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Rajpat Rai, and Bipin Chandra Pal demanded a radical change in the mild policies of Congress. So, these leaders, some leaders of Congress, should be gentle, and fight harder for the freedom. They criticized the policy of Congress to request or pray. These leaders didn't like how Congress only asked the Britishers politely for the change. We must believe in our power, not in the intention of the government, they said. These leaders said that Indians should not trust their own strength, not the British government promises. They were known as radicals. So, radicals because they were wanting a big and quick changes. Tilak Maharaj said, Swaraj is my birthright, I shall have it. As a result of the operation by Lal Bal Pal, it awakened Indian youth to become enthusiastic, confident, and aggressive. So, this leader inspired young Indians to become more excited, confident, and ready to fight for the freedom. In 1905, Viceroy Curzon partitioned Bengal under the pretext of administrative ease as part of his divide and rule policy. So, British leader named Viceroy Curzon divided Bengal into two parts. He said it was to make administration easier, but the real reason was to separate people and weaken their unity. The Bang Bang movement was launched through boycott, national education, and indigenous propaganda. So people started Bang Bang movement to protest against the partition. They stopped using British good, promoted local education, and spread messages to unite Indians. Due to the impact of movement, the British government nullified the decision of partition of Bengal in 1911 AD. So the movement was so strong that the Britishers cancelled the partition of Bengal in 1911. So remember the dates. This was a memorable victory for the Indians. Revolutionary activities in India. A class of young people in India wanted to get Swaraj at any cost. So the young Indians were determined to fight for freedom no matter what it took. They were willing to sacrifice everything for this with a smiling face. They were ready to sacrifice their life for the motherland and also had courage to take life of others. So they did not only risk their life, but they were also brave enough to fight against the British. Revolutionary activities in India was started by Vasudev Balwant Padkare. This man was the first person who started the revolutionary activity in India. He organized the backward caste and gave them combat training. Rain, the chief plague commissioner, was killed by Damodar Kafkar and Balkrishna Kafkar brothers as the people were harassed by him and his assistant at the time of a deadly plague in many parts of Maharashtra and Mumbai. So during deadly disease called the plague, a British officer named Rand troubled people. Two brothers, Damodar and Balkrishna Kafkar, killed him for this. Vinayak Savakar founded a revolutionary organization called Mitra Mela in 1900 AD. So, a leader named Vinayak Savakar named a group called Mitra Mela, which was later renamed as Abhinav Bharat. His book Indian War of Independence 1857 was the first book in the world to be banned before its publication. He carried out revolutionary activities abroad and was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was sent to an Andaman jail where his death determined, so he was kept under house arrest in India. It was during this period that Anushilan Samiti was established in Kolkata. Barendra Ghosh later became its main leader. This organization also extensive effort to spread revolutionary activities through revolutionary literature, training, etc. So the group spread the ideas about freedom through books and training sessions. Khudiram Bose and Praful Chandra Chakki carried out revolutionary activities in Bengal. So these two young men were active in Bengal as revolutionaries. They planned to kill magistrate King Ford. With this objective, they threw a bomb on wagon. But this place of King Ford advocate Kennedy,'s wife and daughter were seated in it, so they died. Khudiram Bose was sentenced to death and Praful Chakki chose to sacrifice his life and shot himself. Ram Prasad Bismil and Asaf Ullah Khan provided an excellent example of Hindu-Muslim unity. So these two leaders, Ram Prasad Bismil and Asaf Ullah Khan, worked together, showing how Hindu and Muslim could unite for freedom. They took part in the Kakori train robbery plan. The English treasury was looted in the Kakori train as money was needed for revolutionary activities and to purchase weapons. They took British money from the train to buy weapons for their freedom fight. Asafak, Ram Prasad Bismil, Roshan Singh and Rajendra Nath were arrested and sentenced to death. So they all were caught and hanged by British. Durga Bhabhi was the medium of communication between the revolutionary at the time, known as Durgavati Devi. So this woman named Durga Bhabhi helped revolutionaries by delivering message and supplies. She made women active in revolutionary activities. They participated in such as sticking posters, distributing leaflets, raising money for the cause in the court, using guns and so on. So this woman helped putting up posters, spreading messages, collecting money and even using guns. Chandrasekhar Azad had become active in revolutionary activities since childhood. So he was active in Kakuri robbery also. He oath that he would not be captured alive by British government. He became a martyr with his own pistol in a clash with British at Alfred Bagh in Allahabad in 1931 AD. So Azad used his own gun to end his life, becoming a martyr in 1931. Revolutionary activities abroad. Many well-known and anonymous sons of India have sacrificed their lives for the freedom of our country. Before the First World War, Indian revolutionaries living in foreign countries became more active and revolutionary activities were carried out in England, America, France, etc. Among one of them was Shyamji Krishna Varma, a native of Kutch who was the founder of the Indian Home Rule Society in England. So Shyamji Krishna Varma started an organization in England called the Indian Home Rule Society to fight for the India's freedom. He launched a magazine called Indian Sociologist to promote the organization and named India House as the office of the organization. So he started a magazine named called Indian Sociologist to spread his idea and used a place called India House as a group office. Madanlal Dhingra, Vinayak Shavakar and Madam Bhikhaji Kama joined revolutionary activities with Shyamji Krishna Varma in London. So they were leaders who joined and worked with Shyamji Krishna Varma in London for India's freedom. Madanlal Dhingra shot and killed William Willey in 1909 AD. So he was hanged. After Shyamji Krishna Varma left for Paris, Savarkar took over his operations in London. For celebrating the golden year of the revolt 1857, he was arrested in 1907 and sentenced to imprisonment. So Savarkar was celebrating 50 years of 1875 revolt, and the Britishers arrested and jailed him in 1907. Madam Bhikaji Rustam Kama started a newspaper called Vande Mataram in Europe in 1902. So, Madam Bhikaji Kama started a newspaper in Europe named Vande Mataram, inspire freedom fighters. She hosted India's first tricolor at the Second International Socialist Conference in Stuttgart, Germany in 1907. Sardar Singh Rana, an ally of Shyamji Krishna Varma, held rallies in Paris to protest against British oppression. So, Sardar Singh Rana, a friend of Varma, organized protest in Paris against British cruelty in India. The French government deported them. Many known and unknown revolutionaries like Taraknath Das, Lala Hardyal, Raja Mahendra Pratap of Afghanistan, Barkatullah, Ras Bihari Ghosh, and Champak Raman Pillai made active efforts to liberate the nation by carrying out revolutionary activities abroad. Many leaders, both famous and unfamous, unknown, worked hard outside the India to help the country to be free from British. Mangar Massacre. The Mangar Massacre took place on November 17, 1913 on the Mangar Hill in Gujarat-Rajasthan border. So a tragic event called the Mangar Massacre happened on Mangar Hills near the Gujarat and Rajasthan border. It is considered a glorious event of tribal sacrifices. Govind Guru Bhagat movement revived the Bhils and developed a sense of self-respect and made efforts for removing blind faith, superstitions, malpractices and evil custom from their life. A leader named Govind Guru started a movement to help the Bhil tribe people feel proud of themselves and stop believing in superstition or harmful practices. Thousands of Bhil gathered at Mangar Hill with the dream of getting freedom from the native kingdom and British on November 17, 1913. On that day, British Army and the army of the elite princess state attacked the hill of Mangar. So the British and the local ruler army attacked the Bhil people gathered at Mangar Hill. According to the scholar, more than 1200 tribals were martyred. They brutally suppressed the movement and arrested Guru Gobind. After his release, he started at Kamobi, Taluka of Limdi, district of Dahod. Presently his samadhi is there. Apart from this, Vayara tribal movement 1914 AD took place in Tapi district and Dhadav tribal movement 1922 AD took place in Vijayanagar Taluka, Sabarkantha district. All this movement were suppressed, so unfortunately the British stopped all this movement forcefully.